Good morning, everybody. Today I want to talk about stretching, cool down, warm up, all that good stuff. So, the whole teaching on stretching is a very, very controversial subject with anything to do with fitness. You can find evidence, you can find articles on stretching's good, stretching's bad, stretching like this is good, stretching like that is bad, this will injure you, this will help you, this will take away your strength before you work out. And it's just, there's a lot out there, like anything in the world that we're starting to discover these days. So my biggest message that I'm going to tell you today is start to get connected to your body. Start to listen to your body. What is your body telling you that you need? Okay? That is the most important thing. And it's practice. It's taking time to figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So over the years, I've discovered what's worked for me, but it might not work for you. So I'm going to share some specific things that I would say are very true. And then from that, you can decide what is going to be best for you. And I'll share a little bit what works for me. So first of all, let's talk about, I don't like to say stretching. I like to say more mobility because mobility brings in stretching. It brings in rolling things out, massaging things to get more of a range of motion. Because what happens is when the muscles are tight and the fascia is tight, it ends up pulling on the joints. And that's why people have a hard time when they're trying to work out and they think, well, I need to stretch my muscles. It's because of that tension that's being pulled on the joints, and it makes it harder for you to move. So it's important to really tap into your body to see what you need to increase your mobility. So back in the day when I started CrossFit, I actually didn't do any stretching really, like maybe a little bit here and there because it just wasn't that fun. And the thing that I discovered as I kept moving, as long as I didn't overdo things, I was bringing my body through full range of motions. So I was taking a joint through a full range of motion, like take it, for example, like a knee. So if you're going from a fully extended hip into the bottom of a squat where your hips are below your knee, you're taking it through a full range of motion. And that helps you to keep your mobility. So think about that with every single joint. As long as you're moving it through a full range of motion, you're going to keep your mobility, okay? That's a fact, okay? Now, when it comes to stretching, so when you're working out, what happens is you are contracting the muscle, you're tightening the muscle, and you're tearing the muscle apart to rebuild it so it rebuilds stronger. That's essentially what you're doing when you're working out, okay? So what happens is that muscle then becomes tight, and then you feel like you need to stretch it out to loosen it up. So now to do with that, it's about tapping into your body and seeing what feels right for you, what type of stretching feels right for you. I will say though that if you do stretches for like 15, 20, 30 seconds, they're not going to actually make a change in anything. As soon as you're done your stretch, it's going to go right back. So if you really want to have a change in the length of the muscle, you need to hold your stretches for, I'm going to say at least 3 minutes. I'd say 3 to 5 minutes, okay? Which seems like a lot. And the reason behind that is because over top of our muscle, we have something called fascia. And fascia helps to hold the structure and hold things in place. And for the fascia to actually allow the muscle to lengthen in the stretch, it needs to be more supple. And so it needs to be warmed up. It needs to be hydrated, and it needs to be held in the position for at least 3 to 5 minutes. So if you think about like things like yin yoga, those types of stretching, they're going to have an impact on the fascia, which is then going to allow the muscle to lengthen again and then it will actually stay at that length versus if you hold for a stretch for anywhere from like 50, anything under, 3 minutes or 2 minutes, it's like an elastic band. It's going to stretch and then it's going to go right back. Okay, so when it comes to trying to change the length of the muscle, you need to hold your stretches for a lot longer than you probably are. Okay, now going into more of the mind, body, and emotional connection to lengthening and stretching the muscle and the fascia and creating a greater range of motion. What happens is through our life, we've experienced trauma. And whether it's physical trauma, mental trauma, or emotional trauma, it has your fascia tighten up into a pattern. And it's holding in a pattern to keep you safe, because going in that direction or doing that movement was unsafe. So it's keeping you away from doing that. Okay, so lengthening your muscle, increasing your mobility and your range of motion is not just a physical thing. You need to be able to tap into what's going on unconsciously in the body, what patterns are being held there. So if you found, and I know this was me for so many years, I would do this. I would stretch, I would roll, I'd hold my stretches for like 3 minutes and it would go right back. But that's because there was emotional trauma that was stuck in the fascia. Okay, so that's a different discussion. And if you want to know more about that, reach out to me. I can help you work through discovering what's actually stuck in the tissues and stuck in the fascia. Like they say, the issue is in the tissues. Okay, so if you're not getting the results you want from just stretching and rolling and holding your stretches longer, then you need to start diving into what's being held in there and why is your body holding you in that pattern? What is it actually keeping you safe from? Okay, so that's kind of like the 101 with stretching. Now, for me personally, what worked well for me is at the beginning of my workout, I would do more of a warm-up type stretching, which was more of a dynamic stretch. So moving the limbs, your legs, your arms, your hips, whatever, through a range of motion. So that would be like leg swings or something, or like hip openers, or like arm circles, hip circles, that kind of thing. So bringing more heat to the joints, bringing some blood flow to the joints and taking it through a little bit of a stretch. I found that is the best thing for me personally to do, and for a lot of people at the beginning of their workout. Okay. Now, if for some reason I had this was like really like in my CrossFit days where I was like lifting really heavy weights and doing really intense, insane workouts, I would roll out some of the muscles, some of the tissues, and I would hold stretches for about 3 to 5 minutes, because for me to be able to say lift a certain weight, I needed to increase my range of motion so I could get into the positions. But when it comes to that can actually be counterintuitive, because when you're stretching the tissues before you go to do, like, say, lift a ton of weight, it actually will decrease your power. But if you look at it, well, if I can't actually get into this position, then I want to work on getting to this position, and I don't care if I lose a little bit of power, because I'm not going to have much power because I don't have the range of motion anyway. So it's really trying to figure out what works for you. So not that we're lifting heavy weights here or anything, but I just wanted to kind of give you the scenarios, okay? So the beginning of the workout is a lot of like range of motion stuff and taking the body through a dynamic stretch, okay? So there's movement with the stretching. Okay. Now at the end of the workout, if I'm feeling very, very tight from whatever the workout is that I did, I will do a stretch where I'm holding for a longer period of time to help help lengthen that fascia and lengthen that muscle that I've just shortened in my workout. One thing to be careful with that, though, is the fascia is so intelligent, and if you begin to push yourself through a stretch into a position it's not ready to go into, it's going to tighten up even more. It's going to protect even more. So that's why you really need to get tapped into your physical body and feel like, just have like a little bit of tension in your stretches so that you're not sending your body into that fight or flight response or that freeze mode. And you can focus on trying to calm your nervous system down when you're in the stretch by say like inhaling for 4 seconds and then exhaling for 8. So having a longer exhale than the inhale to really help calm the nervous system down, because we don't want to be like anxious and like excited while we're trying to stretch, because that's not going to be sending the right message to the muscle to say that it's tight, that it's safe, and it won't want to stretch. Okay, so that's sort of stretching 101 for you. So my recommendation number 1 is to check in with your body and see what feels right. Number 2 would be a little bit of a trial and error to see over time. Okay, this is what I feel. This is what I tried. It worked. It didn't work. If it didn't work, let's try something else. Okay. Before a workout, the recommendation would be for you to do more of a dynamic stretch just to warm the body up and increase that range of motion through a dynamic stretch. And then the last one is to, at the end of your workout, if you feel like you really need to stretch, holding your stretches for longer than, let's say longer than 2 minutes, and focusing on calming the nervous system while you do that. And the last thing I want to add with stretching is the stretching doesn't actually have to be done when you're working out after your workouts. It can be done at any time. And that's one of the biggest things out there, that people think after your workout you have to do your stretching. No, that's not true. Just make sure that when you are doing your stretching that you've warmed your body up, you've got some blood flow, some energy flowing through the muscles, and then do your stretches. Okay. Please let me know if you have any questions, if you need any support of trying to figure out what the best stretches are for you, and post them in the comments. Have an amazing day and an awesome workout.